clearance certificate. So this is intended to enhance tax compliance by those engaged in and remittances, but also exports. This will effectively force taxpayers to comply with filing and payment requirements, and this will definitely strengthen the tax base. Further, Chair, on the plus side, we also note that those non-compliant taxpayers, non-compliant remitters, will pay this 15% advance tax. So this will also present additional revenue to the government for those who might choose to evade taxation. So it's meant to capture that market of citizens. And another advantage is that through bringing more people into tax registration, this will reduce informality, and in the long run increases the tax base and also government revenue. However, we also note that it also presents certain challenges in that with regarding small-scale exporters, it will it's likely to increase the cost of doing business, and it has the potential to make Zambian exports less competitive in international markets, because these small-scale exporters, their cost of doing business will likely to be impacted. But also, we also bring out the fact that it has the potential to bring out an administrative burden for banks, in that banks would need to verify each and every $2,000 or more transaction. And like you noted, honorable members, during the appearance of some of the banks when we're considering the fiscal framework, some of the banks noted that $2,000 is a very small amount. So these transactions the volumes are so many on a daily basis. So in terms of having to verify each and every one for this, it can present an administrative burden. But here also we note that in terms of ways of working around it, it will be good for the authority to confirm whether by virtue of, because these banks have the tip-ins for these remitters and these exporters, the system should be integrated in such a way that it should automatically verify the compliance status of each person who is transacting, rather than them having to present another tax clearance certificate. The tip-in should be able to verify this, so the system should be integrated in such a way in order to reduce this administrative burden. And lastly, we also note that in terms of non-resident individuals who send remittances or engage in exports through Zambian banks, the committee might need to confirm whether there will be exemptions for this category, because there's a potential for them to be unfairly taxed because they lack a tax clearance certificate by virtue of them being a non-resident. Then the third one there, the third proposal in the bill is the provision of exemptions on withholding tax on royalties. So this measure is intended to allow specific taxpayers to obtain withholding tax certificates on royalties. So these exemptions, for example, with regarding to certain small businesses and startups which are strategic, or also, for example, tax entities such as charities who collect certain royalties, these ones should be exempt from, usually exempt from withholding tax, from withholding tax, and by doing this could support economic growth and also reduce the financial burden on sectors such as certain strategic small businesses. Then the other one, Chair, is the increase in the bans for presumptive taxes by 20% for motor vehicles for the carriage of persons. So currently, Chair, these operators of these motor vehicles for the carriage of persons, they do not pay corporate income tax. So because they are a hard to tax sector, so they pay a presumptive tax. So this increase of 20%, but firstly I must mention that the last increment was in 2021, and it was also by 20 by 20%, and now the proposed increment also is by 20%. And the rationale for increasing by 20% is to adjust for inflation in these presumptive rates. But also we mentioned that while this 20% adjustment in these presumptive taxes is aimed at preserving the real value of these taxes, these higher tax rates may discourage compliance, particularly that they're already a difficult sector to tax. So they are prone to high levels of non-compliance. So increasing the high cost of doing business may discourage compliance in that regard. Then also, given the anticipated rise in business costs, it may be helpful for the committee to establish with the Zambia Revenue Authority the current compliance levels regarding this tax. This will help the committee assess whether enhancing compliance measures could yield higher collections without necessarily having to increase these taxes. And we bring out one possible way of enhancing compliance regarding presumptive taxes, in that it should be a requirement, for example, when they are paying their road fitness tax, the road fitness tests, the tax for this, registered passenger transport operators should include proof of presumptive tax payment. That's one way of just enhancing compliance around this, so that to explore the possibility of collecting more from this sector without necessarily having to increase the rates of these taxes. Then the other one, the other significant proposal is the increase of the corporate income tax rates from 15% to 20% for the export of non-traditional products and value addition to copper cathodes. Chair, you will note that the ministry had published the action plan on domestic revenue mobilization for the period 2022 to 2025. And in this, one of the measures was, in the medium term, to harmonize the rate of corporate income tax. So currently in Zambia we have very differentiated corporate income tax rates, and in the plan the proposal is to harmonize at a standard 30%. And you also note that in the green paper that your committee considered this year, as we move towards the 30%, the proposal was that in the medium term we should first harmonize at 25%. So these two measures are aimed at moving towards the standard rate. And what we bring out there is that harmonization has a positive in that it can promote fairness. It can also encourage compliance because across different sectors, because they will be taxed the same. So it encourages fairness, encourages compliance, and also expands the tax base, while also increasing revenue, because these rates have been increased from 15 to 20%. However, we note, Chair, that given the increased potential tax burden from these businesses that currently benefit from low corporate income tax rates, they may be disadvantaged, so it may be a disincentive for them, particularly given government's priority to stimulate growth in non-mining sectors, particularly in agriculture and agribusiness. This plan, it proposes gradual increments over the medium term, but there you also note that despite the proposal to harmonize, the movement from 15 to 20% still falls short of the harmonized proposal of 30%. So that's the committee may wish to interrogate further why or when the exact period of harmonization will be. And also, like I mentioned, it will also act as a disincentive for promoting non-traditional exports and also for value addition. We've seen an increased drive towards value addition towards copper cathode, so increasing their tax rate may present a disincentive in that regard. And in table 4 there, we just show the differentiated corporate income tax rates across different sectors. So you see that they vary from as low as 0% to as high as 35% for electronic communications networks. So these are your telcos, such as your Airtel, your MTNs. They pay the highest rate at 35%. Then we see that there are some sectors which pay as low as 0%, but farming and agro-processing has been maintained, however, at 10% even in the year 2025. Then on page 7 of our submission, we note on F there, the other one is to provide a waiver for a penalty arising from an underestimation of a provisional return. So as businesses conduct their business, or as they do their tax assessments, when doing their provisional income returns, it's possible that there could be miscalculations, and these miscalculations could be both due to in efforts to evade tax, but also it's possible that the reasons could be genuine and due to possibly unforeseeable circumstances. And these circumstances could be such as unexpected economic downturns, sudden market disruptions, regulatory changes, or significant one-time expenses, which may lead to a miscalculation of the provisional income return. So as the law sits right now, when a business underestimates its provisional return, penalties apply. So this waiver seeks to grant the Commissioner General authority to be able to assess, to see if the reasons are genuine and not in efforts to evade tax. The Commissioner General should be able to apply a waiver on those penalties. However, Chair, we note there that the Act does not provide the circumstances under which the Commissioner General will be able to provide these waivers, because this can also be prone to exploitation. Then G there, the other proposal is mandate a person or partnership declared to be an agent to remit withheld tax before the return is due. So this, in the current law, there is no specific date for when withholding agents should remit this, and this just aims to cure that problem by requiring these withholding agents to remit tax 2 days before the required date. For certain types of withholding tax, we note that the date of remittance is the 14th of every month. So this provision will effectively mean that these withholding agents will be mandated to remit on the 12th day. So this will ensure timely remitting of withheld tax, but also it also protects businesses in that in the event of a delay to remit this tax by the withholding agents, penalties apply to a business. So this protects businesses as well. Then H there is maintain the withholding tax rate on winnings from gaming, lotteries and betting at 15%. So there, Chair, we note that for the 2023 and 2024 financial years, the withholding tax rate on winnings was suspended. It was 20%, but it was suspended. The 20% was suspended and it was reduced to 15% for 2023 and 2024. So in 2025, the law proposes to maintain this rate at 15%. And we note that despite this sector showing exponential growth, which presents a good opportunity for government to increase its revenue collection from this sector, the rate has been maintained at 15%. But we also note that while this maintaining may not maximize government revenue per se, we also note that there are other tax changes towards this betting industry in the budget, and my colleague will allude to those, which are contained in the Customs and Excise Bill. So when we look at these two proposals together, there's potential for the government to maximize revenue from this sector. And I end there for the income tax changes, and I'll hand over to my colleague who will run us through the value-added tax bill.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Mwinga. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, for the opportunity. So I'll quickly run the committee through the VAT bill. For a start, by definition, a value-added tax is a consumptive tax, which is an indirect tax that is levied on the sale of goods and services, and this tax is borne by the final consumer. So all goods and services supplied by taxable suppliers are standard rated unless expressly exempted or zero rated. In terms of businesses, we are saying that businesses supplying goods and services that are zero rated or that are categorized as such can claim import tax on business expenses, while those that have a category code exempt cannot claim any import tax. Value added tax is argued to be simpler or less complicated because it's invoice based, and it has been also deemed to be a fairer tax. In terms of the legal framework, the VAT Act Chapter 331 of the laws of Zambia is a principal legislation. Then we also find that the administrative rules that are made by the Commissioner General through Gazette notices can also be used to guide the administration of VAT. Also, the general regulations that are made by the Minister, and these are done through the statutory instruments. In terms of performance of VAT, we have noted that from 2013 up until 2025, there has been an upward trajectory in terms of performance. So the statistics we have given there just to show how VAT has been performing. So in 2023, or during the 2023 fiscal year, VAT collection performed above target by 12.7%. Then when we go to 2024, we see almost a similar pattern in terms of performance. So I'll draw you to table 5, where we are just trying to look at the 2024 and 2025 VAT estimates. There we have also broken down the VAT into two, because it has two components, the import part and also the domestic part. Now what we have noted there is that with growth from if we compare between 2024 and 2025, therefore the observation is that the minister, which is the finance minister, expects favorable VAT collections going into 2025 compared to 2024. And we have also noted that of the two main categories, import VAT collection is expected to significantly increase by about 50% in 2025. Yeah, so coming to the proposed amendment, there are two proposals, and I'll quickly run through them. The first one is to provide conditions for the exemption of a taxable supplier or categories of taxable suppliers from using the electronic invoicing system. Then the other one is to revise conditions for input tax claims or deductions. Now, what this means, I am now on page 10. Yeah, what this means is that the first amendment, the object in A, seeks to empower the Commissioner General on prescribed conditions to exempt a supplier or group of suppliers from using the smart invoicing system. Currently, the Commissioner does not have the powers to exempt the supplier or a group of suppliers from the smart invoicing, as it were. However, what has been noted by the authority is that some sectors or systems may not be suitable for the integration of the smart invoicing system. Our observation is that while this is a very good measure, it's a commendable one, maybe what the committee may wish to find out just two things. One, in terms of the prescribed conditions that that the Commissioner is going to use in order for him to exempt a supplier or a group of suppliers from smart invoicing. These conditions have not been provided, or they have not been developed yet. Therefore, it will be important for the committee to understand what type of circumstances will necessitate the Commissioner General to make the exemptions. Then also, when it comes to the exemptions for these sectors, the committee may wish to understand whether these exemptions will be done in perpetuity, or these suppliers or group of suppliers be exempted from smart invoicing forever, or it's at a specific point in time. So the committee may also wish to understand just how this is going to be done. Then I'll go to objective B, which speaks to the revision of conditions for input tax claims or deduction. Now this is very connected to A, because in A we are giving conditions to the, in terms of what will necessitate an exemption. And if these individuals, this supplier or group of suppliers have been given these exemptions, then they can go on to claim for a refund. This is what B is speaking to. So the bill aims to revise conditions for input tax claims, and this is pursuant to instrument number 58, where a directive was given that the only claim that can be done on input tax are those claims that are backed by the electronic invoicing, electronic or smart invoicing system. So if it is not, then a claim cannot be done. However, what this object seeks to do is to make exceptions for some of those that who have been exempted from the smart invoicing system, so that they can go on and claim. But just like we noted in the first object, the circular is explicit in stating that only smart invoicing will be allowed to claim import, but it puts a caveat on import tax deduction supported by approved invoices from taxpayer exempted from using the smart invoicing system. This raises concerns regarding the uniqueness of these sectors that will be exempted and the duration of the exemption. So just to re-emphasize what I already spoke about in one, what will necessitate the exemptions, and once they are exempted, what will necessitate their claim in terms of the refunds. So I just thought I should bring to the committee's attention those two issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chair, we will now move to the Customs and Excise Bill number 24 of 2024. By way of definition, Honorable Chair, excise duty is a tax that is levied on products that are imported or domestically produced, and it is imposed at various stages, at the stage of production, but also at the time of distribution, by reference to weight, strength, or quantity of the goods. Honorable Chair, in 2025, customs and excise duty is expected to contribute 22.8 billion to the 2025 budget, and this 22.8 billion is supposed to be raised from both customs and excise duty, from existing measures, but also the measures that have been proposed in the 2025 budget. The objects of the bill, Honorable Chair, the bill has got 4 objects, and this is to revise the rates of customs and excise duty payable on certain goods. The second one is to revise the list of goods subject to surtax at importation. The third one is to introduce 10% excise duty on betting. And the last one, which is usually through housekeeping measures, is to provide for matters connected to or incidental to the foregoing. On the first object, Honorable Chair, which is to revise the rates of customs and excise duty payable on certain goods, the bill has provided 2 measures on this object. And the first one, the bill proposes to increase excise duty on non-alcoholic beverages to 1 kwacha per liter. This measure, Honorable Chair, is aiming to achieve 2 things. The primary one, of course, is to enhance domestic revenue generation, but it is also aimed at standardizing excise duty on non-alcoholic beverages. Currently, fruit juices, which is a class of non-alcoholic beverages, are levied at 0.6 kwacha per liter, and this is on imports, and while other imports on alcoholic beverages are levied at 0.3%. Honorable Chair, this measure, in addition to the 2 measures that I stated, it's also a recipe for curing misclassification where importers may take advantage of this differentiated excise duty on non-alcoholic beverages, which is 0.6 kwacha and 0.3 kwacha, to avoid tax or reduce their tax liability. However, Honorable Chair, the increase in excise duty rate will also effectively increase the excise duty on locally produced non-alcoholic beverages, and this is because the excise duty on locally produced non-alcoholic beverages is based on the rate for imported products. So by increasing the rate of imported products to 1%, this effectively means that the excise duty levied on the locally produced non-alcoholic beverages will also increase. From Table 7, you will note that the current rate for locally produced non-alcoholic beverages is 0.05 kwacha per liter, while fruit juices and other beverages are levied at 0.6 kwacha and 0.3 kwacha respectively. So for all non-alcoholic beverages from the table, the rate will be at 1 kwacha, while that of the local produced non-alcoholic beverages will increase to 0.1 kwacha. And you will note, Honorable Chair, that in the second schedule of the bill, the bill also proposes to increase the rate of levying the excise duty for non-alcoholic beverages for locally produced goods from 1/6 to 1/10. So therefore, this is increasing the rate of excise duty on the locally produced beverages from 0.05 to 0.1%. So 1/10 of the 1 kwacha now gives us standing way to be levied on the locally produced non-alcoholic beverages. The second measure, Honorable Chair, for the first objective, which is aiming at increasing the customs and excise duty, the bill proposes to introduce an automatic annual adjustment indexation of the respective specific duties on tobacco and tobacco products, fuel, as well as used motor vehicles, and this will be based on average inflation rate for the preceding year. However, this adjustment will be capped at 20%. So regardless of what the inflation rate for the previous year is, the maximum that the adjustment can take is capped at the maximum of 20%. Honorable Chair, this measure, as stated, is aimed at retaining the value of excise duty in the face of inflation, and it's therefore also amending the second and third schedules of the Customs and Excise Act, Chapter 322 of the laws of Zambia. In terms of the implications, Honorable Chair, several implications have been included in the brief that is before you. The revision of this excise duty, automatic revision, means that the minister now will have express power to revise excise duty on the stated products without having to bring the bill to Parliament to revise the rate. And this will be done through an SI. So that means that somehow this provision is taken away the power of Parliament to scrutinize this amendment, as a minister will effect this amendment based on the inflation rate for the preceding year by issuing a statutory instrument. The other implication, Chair, of this measure is that the increase in excise duty, this measure is likely to increase excise duty for locally and imported manufactured commodities, that is for tobacco products, fuel, as well as used motor vehicles. But particularly for tobacco, you will note that in the second schedule of the bill, which is at the end of the bill, under heading 7, there's a proposal to increase the excise duty rate for tobacco and tobacco products from 400 kwacha per mille to 452 kwacha per mille. This measure, Honorable Chair, will also impact the duty rate that is imposed on locally manufactured tobacco and tobacco products, and it's a similar concept that is also applicable to locally produced non-alcoholic beverages. And this is because the excise duty rate that is applicable on locally produced tobacco is based on the rate that is charged on imported products. So in the bill, the rate that is levied on locally produced tobacco is 1/4 of the imported rate. So in this case, effectively, it means that the excise duty that will be imposed on the locally produced commodities is going to increase from 100 kwacha per mille to 113 kwacha per mille. So in terms of the implication, Honorable Chair, yes, this will enhance revenue collection from both locally manufactured and imported products, but at the same time, the measure is likely to contribute to the management and prevention of public health concerns around excessive consumption of tobacco and alcohol. Honorable Chair, the other issue is that the annual adjustment of specific duty, of specific excise duty for motor vehicles will be applicable to motor vehicles that are older than 2 years. This is in the category of vehicles that are between 2 years and 5 years, and those that are older than 5 years. While the measure is aimed at preserving the value of taxes on listed products, it will also make importation of used vehicles, and those that are considered relatively new of between 2 and 5 years will become more expensive over time as a result of this adjustment. The other implication, Honorable Chair, of this automatic indexing, it means that it will also weaken consumer purchasing power because by indexing, that means that it's going to increase the cost of local production, but also commodities that are being imported. And the observation, Honorable Chair, is that once these costs for importing and producing are increased, these costs are passed on to consumers, and this may contribute to inflation eventually. The second object of the bill, Honorable Chair, is to revise the list of goods subject to surtax. And similarly, there are some measures that have been proposed to revise the list of these goods that will be subjected to surtax. Honorable Chair, the bill proposes to introduce 5% on selected goods, 5% selected goods surtax on imported printed paper, as well as other packaging materials for the harmonized systems code that has been given there, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, this measure is aimed at protecting local production of packaging materials and also protect the local industries from competition from the same imported products. Honorable Chair, you may wish to note that customs duty on these products is levied at 25%, and therefore what this means is that if a commodity has been imported at a value of 100 kwacha, for argument's sake, the 25% customs duty will be imposed on that product, bringing the customs duty tax to 25 kwacha of the 100 kwacha, but the surtax is now levied on the value of the commodity plus the customs duty. So if the value of the commodity is 100 kwacha and the customs duty is 25 kwacha, the 5% surtax will be levied on 125 kwacha. So effectively, this means that this surtax that is being introduced, Honorable Chair, is further increasing the cost of importing these commodities. Honorable Chair, while this measure, as stated, is aimed at protecting local industries and also encouraging them to invest in this sector, the effectiveness of this measure is dependent on whether the local manufacturers are able to meet the demand for these products, but also whether the quality of the local manufactured products is good enough to be compared to what is being imported. But also, Honorable Chair, with this increase in this surtax, it means that there's also a risk for importers to try to smuggle these products to avoid paying tax. And therefore, we may wish to establish what kind of measures the Zambia Revenue Authority has put in place to ensure that smuggling of these products or commodities does not take place in order for them to avoid this surtax that has been imposed. Honorable Chair, another product where a surtax has been proposed is the importation on garden hose pipes, and there's a list of items or description in Table 4 that the bill proposes to impose this surtax in 2025. So there are about 4 items where the surtax is being introduced, that is from 0% to 20%, and description is differentiated by the diameters of these hose pipes. And also there's a hose pipe which is exceeding 30 millimeters in terms of diameter, where the surtax is 20%. The reasoning, Honorable Chair, in terms of the effectiveness of the tax is the same as the reasons that have been stated in the surtax of packaging material, where while they are trying to protect local industries, we may wish to establish whether all these items that where the surtax has been imposed are locally produced. If some of them are not locally produced, it means effectively that it's going to increase the cost of importation, and in an event where they're not being produced locally, it means that importers cannot replace or do not have an option but to depend on the imported goods. So in terms of how these hose pipes are used, they are used for the description does not distinguish between for domestic use and industrial use. So that means that this surtax will be applicable for both domestic and industrial use. In terms of what they are used for, these hose pipes, Honorable Chair, and the various pipes are used for irrigation, plumbing, and also in laboratories. But what you may wish to note is that these items that are listed in Table 4, Honorable Chair, no customs duty currently is imposed on these products. Honorable Chair, the third object that the bill the third object of the bill is to introduce excise duty of 10% on betting. My colleague on income tax touched a bit on this one. So the 10% will be imposed on the betting amount. That means that if 100 kwacha is supposed to be invested as betting, 10 kwacha of that amount is going to be excise duty to be remitted to Zambia Revenue Authority. Honorable Chair, the gaming industry is growing rapidly, and it is proving to be a reliable source of revenue for the government. And this measure of 10% is going to enhance revenue collection from this industry. However, arguably, the 10% that has been levied on the 10% may not drastically reduce the participation of players in this industry. And this is backed by a study that was undertaken where the findings revealed that tax rate increases could potentially increase government revenue while not decreasing net gaming revenues to casinos. Honorable Chair, the bill also proposes housekeeping measures such as the increase of penalty fee from 166.7 fee units to 10,000 fee units for anyone who fails to lodge a declaration for goods prior to importation. Honorable Chair, this proposal is trying to ensure that there's timely timely remittance of timely payment of tax revenue by placing this this penalty on taxpayers who fail to lodge these documents prior to importation. What this measure, Honorable Chair, is trying to cure is to cure congestion also at the borders by making sure that documents for expected importations are lodged before those commodities actually arrive at the border. The bill is also trying to empower the Commissioner General, Honorable Chair, to suspend user accounts for customs clearing agents and principals with outstanding obligation. Honorable Chair, this measure is just trying to encourage timely settlement of tax obligations to avoid the inconvenience of TPINs being suspended and causing these taxpayers or agents not to further operate. So by placing this proposal on suspending these TPINs, agents or importers will be forced to make sure that they settle all their outstanding obligations. Honorable Chair, the last bill is the Zambia Revenue Authority bill, which will be run through by Mr. Philip Mwinga. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The last bill is the Zambia Revenue Authority bill, which proposes an amendment regarding the immunity being being extended to officers of the authority. So just by way of introduction, the Act was enacted to, among others, establish the Zambia Revenue Authority, to define the functions and the powers of its governing board, among others. And the object of the committee members. The new provision extends this immunity to members of staff and broadens the scope of those who are protected under the Act. And honorable members, this measure is likely to encourage staff to perform their duties with confidence and protect them from personal liability for actions taken in good faith as they conduct their duties. However, Chair, we note there that good faith is not defined in the Act. It doesn't have parameters. And in this regard, it can be prone to exploitation. So, honorable members, you may wish to establish where the authority will issue or publish guidelines, perhaps by SI, on what good faith will entail. And just to give an example of potential exploitation, but I'll start by maybe the positive of this. I also mention that extending immunity to officers of the authority is not the first time it's being introduced by the authority. Under the Value Added Tax Act, immunity is extended to officers and who are and also the same definition is maintained. They are protected provided their actions are in good faith. So it's not the first time, but even in the Value Added Tax Act, good faith is not defined. And the example I'll try to use to illustrate both ways in which it can be a positive and also a potential avenue for exploitation is in the audit process. When ZRA officers are carrying out their audits, should they follow all the audit protocols? But still, there is still potential of tax evasion. Provided they followed the audit process and all the audit protocols, they would not be liable. They should not be liable because their actions were done in good faith. How they provide guidelines, using the same example, if an officer is carrying out an audit and deliberately or negligently chooses not to follow audit protocols, and then the client or the customer or the citizen evades tax, the way it's sitting, this provision can be used to exploit by providing immunity to the officer. So there is still a potential for abuse. So hence underscoring the point for guidelines on what good faith will entail. And that's basically the only provision or the only amendment to this act. And Chair, in closing, when we look at all the 4 bills presented before your committee, you will note that none of them have got concessions. So in 2025, there will be no concessions given to any industry and any sector. And on the other hand, the measures they are aimed at enhancing tax administration, but also there are some measures which are aimed at enhancing or maximizing domestic revenue mobilization. And on that note, Chair, we'll end our submission. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the submission. Okay, I deliberately left you to move at your pace. So, honourable members, we have about 3 minutes, but we can extend it a bit. Before the next witness comes in. Honourable Mutiki, is that an indication?
Just comments, Chair.
Okay.
I think, first of all, we thank you for your presentation, taking us through and making us understand the views. Especially with the focus mobilization of the budget through in-house local resources. It's very important that we enhance the tax administration, and we cannot emphasize that very much to ensure that we employ even the latest technology so that we are able to more people to pay tax, because that's the only way it can be sustainable to finance the budget. The second comment, I think, is only related to the amendment on the 2000, the 15% on the 2000. I think that shouldn't be seen as, it's not a new tax per se. Actually, it's just a compliance measure. So if you are complying, you have the tax certificate, the TCC. It won't affect you. It has the potential of even contributing nothing if everybody is complying, because it's not a tax that is being introduced. It's just a compliance measure. So if everybody is complying, there's no money government to collect on that. So it should be seen in that context, that it's not a new tax that's being introduced. The last part of which is problematic is the definition of what you just alluded to on the last part of good faith. That I have a problem with, because it's like, in a medical doctor when you're operating, and you have the cases of medical negligence, despite you being a trained person, well qualified, and that kind of thing. So that's very problematic to define what good faith is. So for me, I wouldn't be very comfortable with extending immunity to ZRI people, because it's, corruption, there's so much corruption in this country. We must not make it easier for everybody. There should always be that fear in people's head that should I not do my job properly, I'll be prosecuted. If you give them some immunity of some sort, people will use that to try to advance their selfish motives. So I'm not very comfortable with that last aspect. Yeah, I submit. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Since he touched on it, but anyway, let me allow you, the members, and also just to indicate that we are now live on both Parliament Radio and TV. I'll keep a tag on your last comment. That's why I wanted. I'll still have a question on that one. But let me allow first the members to ask questions or maybe any comments. So we need to be brief, because as I indicated, I think the next witness is already around there waiting. So questions in this order: Honorable Nyirenda, I saw your hand first, Honorable Mabumba, Honorable Simunji, and then the last one is Honorable Jamba. If we can be brief and fast so that we don't keep the other witness waiting for long. Honorable Nyirenda.
Thank you so much, Chair. Page 9. anything that seems to be very good in performance may require questioning and a bit of an inquiry, especially for us lawmakers. Trying to look at this value-added tax. We are saying that it's always in the positive. Doesn't this ring a bell? Why is it that VAT, it's very easy for people to be compliant? Isn't this the same VAT which is claimed back, especially? So, for the sake of us as Zambia, this is like money which just comes in and it goes back. So I don't know why I would really want to see the real advantage of this VAT, where it's saying no, it overperformed by 32%, no, it overperformed by that. I don't know. Maybe it may be something that we may need to look at. And there was a statement which you issued where you said that now the powers of the National Assembly will be taken over by the minister just issuing an SI. I would want to find out how is that sitting, especially that our role is to ensure that we are offering checks and balances, and we should be involved in any development that is coming and not leaving all the powers to just the minister. I submit, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Mabumba. So I can just take note of the questions.
Thank you, Chair. For me, on page 3, Chair, on number B, on the extend advance tax on income tax at the rate of 15%. I'm not too sure whether the Parliamentary Budget Office did also inquire.
You can maybe speak closer to the mic so that since we only.
Did inquire on this particular proposal. I will cite myself, and I'm sorry to say this as an example. Actually, at the time the budget was presented, I went to send the money. Then I was asked to say, can you bring your tip-in? Unfortunately, Chair, didn't have the tip-in on my fingertips. I asked the lady, why don't you go into the system? The system was not working. I had to be forced to go and have a printed tax union. If you are a busy person, it is. So for me, a parliamentary budget office, have we inquired on this? Do we have systems and human capital? Because if, for example, I go chair in the bank and they want, I'm sending money, the bank should just go into their database or computer system and they find David Mabumba, he has complied in terms of tax. But you are asked to say, no, the system is not working, can you give us your TPIN and so forth? It quite proves to be a challenge, and I don't know our colleagues, because you're supposed to be independent, whether you have also inquired on this one, whether truly we have got the systems that will be able to accommodate all these requirements. Then, Chair, on number 5, on increasing the bands for presumptive tax. Chair, on this one also, and I totally agree with them, it's not a question of increasing, Chair, the tax band. It's a compliance level. Today, if you go in town, Chair, one day I wanted to get a taxi, and then I was with my brother. I said, but which are the taxis? All of them, they have got black number plates. And I said, are these taxis which we are using in this country? He says, yes. And those, Chair, are not paying anything at all. But you find a few registered taxis carrying the red number plates, or even these buses, are the ones that are paying. Okay. So for me, Chair, on this one also, I don't know whether the Parliamentary Budget Office has inquired on this, just like they have stated in their statements. Either is it compliance levels? In this country, compliance levels are low. Rats who are supposed to chair implement on this one, they will tell you private that they can't do this because of reasons maybe which you should suspect, all of us. Because most of those guys who have not registered their vehicles in red number plates, either they belong to particular political parties or what, they'll say things like that. So for me on this one, colleagues, it's not the issue of increasing the tax band, but so many operators are not paying this tax. The last one, Chair, also is on the bill for ZRI. Just like we discussed yesterday, Chair, promoting a bill that provides immunity, Chair, now to staff at ZRI What if the Medical Association of Zambia would come to this parliament and say, you know what, we want also a bill that gives us immunity as we work in these hospitals? What are we going to do? So for me, Chair, we should not really extend this bill, though the language I'm hearing is that, no, this is existing, this is existing. If we have enacted bills which are providing immunity to staff, Chair, I think that is wrong. Staff should be able to stand on their own. If I'm prosecuted, I should be able to go in the courts of law and defend myself why I made particular decisions. And at that particular point, the courts would be able to educate and say, well, we have looked at this was made in good faith, this was not made in good faith. So, Chair, we should really be, on that particular bill, we should be very cautious not to give ZRI. The job that they have on behalf of the Zambian people is so critical that once you start giving them this immunity, we may just open, like my colleague said, a Pandora box of corruption, and everybody will go and hide to say, no, look, I have got immunity. That's why I made this particular decision. So again, PBO, I don't know whether you have inquired into this particular proposal of good faith and why we should give ZRI this immunity. What about the other civil servants who are also working in very critical sectors like the medical practitioners? I submit.
Thank you. Maybe they can respond to those since they are loaded quite a number of them before we. Okay. Okay.
Chair, my question is on the table which Honorable Number referred to, which is under D
page
on page 5. I know others might have said the increase is too much from 12,960 to 15,552. But you have to take note that these vehicles are using vehicles, the roads which are maintained daily. So there's maintenance costs. From 2021, this has not been increased. While inflation has been going up, the quart has been depreciated. For me, I think this increase, if it's not enough for now, that should have gone beyond 20%.
Okay.
We need money to maintain the roads. If you look at most of these vehicles, like the small buses which are in town, some of them, they don't even pay for road tax. Even insurance is not paid where another tax is charged. So for me, this is not enough. If 20% people think is too high, for me it should be maintained or be increased. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are you able to comment, Edin and team?
Thank you very much, Chair. I just wanted to respond to Honorable Nyerenda's concern. It's a pity she's not here, but she raised concerns regarding VAT. Now, to start with, I just wanted to make mention that the effectiveness or the efficacy of a tax is measured based on how easy it can be implemented. So it's no surprise that VAT is the second contributor and the first one is income tax, because income tax is easy to collect, and VAT, in my introduction I made mention that VAT is invoice based and therefore it's uniform and uncomplicated, so it's easy to also get because it's invoice based. That's why we keep collecting these amounts of monies from VAT. Now there was also a mention with regard to refunds, that isn't it the same money that we get then we give back? The figures we have presented, and these are figures from the budget on table 5, are net of the refunds. Maybe a more difficult question we can be asking is to sort of understand the refunds vis-a-vis what we are putting here, and then begin to ask the question, should we be doing more? Should we be collecting more from VAT, given that if we reduce on the refunds, then we increase on how much VAT will be contributing to the total tax revenue? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, honorable members. I'll touch on the aspects of good faith, some of which were just comments, which as an office we agree with. In the absence of proper parameters guiding what good faith or defining what good faith is, this provision may be prone to potential abuse. Another aspect that was brought out was the adequacy of the systems and the human capital regarding the administration of the tip-in requirements and also the tax clearance certificates when citizens are remitting money. The question was whether, as an office, we've conducted a study. We can conduct a study, just a deep dive on the adequacy, but preliminary findings for us as an office are that the banking sector and the financial sector as a whole has bemoaned the adequacy of systems, particularly on the authority side. While they may need to also integrate their systems, but currently as it stands, even the requirement that the Honourable Member cited of a requirement of a tip-in when remitting, then the system is down constantly. The sector has bemoaned that more often than not, the problem is on the authority side. So the authority may need to enhance its systems to ensure that as much as they are trying to enhance compliance, their systems are able to support this measure. Then the other comment was on presumptive taxes and the compliance levels. We do agree that this sector is highly informal, and presumptive taxes, the levels of compliance may not be to the maximum. So there's potential to raise more revenue from this sector by enhancing compliance, but also in the absence of compliance, adjusting these rates, although it may burden the few compliant taxpayers, it presents an opportunity for government to raise much needed revenue. I'll hand over to my colleague to speak to the other questions. Thank you.
Chair, I'll respond to the questions that were raised on the customs and excise bill. Honourable Nyirenda raised the question on the requirement for the minister to issue an SI to revise excise duty on the specified products. Honourable Chair, yes, indeed, the minister will revise the excise duty on these products through an SI, but the comfort is in the fact that the index has been capped at 20%, regardless of what the inflation rate is for the previous year. The other comfort, Honourable Chair, is that this adjustment will be done annually, on an annual basis. So that means that this revision will only be done once in a year. Honourable Chair, probably the rationale is that normally businesses will secure their profits whenever there's inflation by passing on the cost to customers, and the government is not doing the same in terms of collecting tax. These specific duty rates, excise duty rates, are charged or levied on quantities and not the value of the products. So that means that the increase of collecting excise duty on those products is dependent on how much they produce. So this is different from the ad valorem tax, which is self-adjusting, where the tax is levied on the value of the good. So when the value of the good increases, automatically the tax that is collected on that good also increases. So this is the rationale also to just retain the value of the tax that is collected on these selected products. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Honourable Jumba.
Thank you, Chair. There's something to do with these pipes, eh? I just want to think that
which one? The PVC?
PVC, yes.
Okay.
On page 16. Because you are trying to give us some insight of what we are talking about. When we look at this...
No, not the PVC, sorry. This is the hose
pipes. Pipe, yes, hose pipes.
I thought of what you were so passionate about it yesterday for the PVC, so I thought that was the line. So the hose pipes, yes.
The hose pipes, yes, the hose pipes. Yeah, so... I don't, at some point, is it 2019, 2020, we were fighting with the milk, production of milk, you know, powdered milk and the other issues. So some people in the industry said this milk which is being imported from New Zealand and whatever is actually bringing down the production of milk in our country, and you know this powdered milk is getting expensive. Immediately I remember the government put a charge on it. We noticed that the milk production on the local market, they reduced the prices. You know, like a farmer grows, he's producing milk at his farm. Maybe they were buying per liter 10 kwacha. Immediately that thing was affected, they brought maybe to 7 kwacha. So the farmers were actually affected adversely. So now, this, when you look at it, you as the technocrats, you're advising us. Maybe we're just trying to protect 2 industries in the country for these pipes to be made. At the end of the day, immediately you do this, it will mean if I'm going to import any pipe, you see if I go into game or I go into other, you see those pipes going up. Then someone who is manufacturing those things here, you find his prices will also go up. Meanwhile, the effect is going to be on the customer. Do you really think that when we try to look at this thing, in your own opinion, it's a good idea that we can put this 20% now on this surcharge? Or we just say no, let them compete with whatever is happening, whether the thing is coming from Zimbabwe, South Africa, then can also import and export.
Okay.
I just want to hear your comment on that.
Your comment on that one?
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, Honorable Chair, the increase from 0% to 20% surtax is quite a drastic one, and the impact may be quite high in terms of the cost of importing these hose pipes and other description of the pipes that have been included. And rightly so, Honorable Jamba, the cost of this importation, once it increases, yes, it will be passed on to customers. It's almost obvious. And right now we're dealing with the issue of inflation, and it also raises the risk of increasing inflation depending on the level of demand on this product.
Yeah. Okay. I had in fact form of a question like on the ZRI bill, and we need to ensure that maybe even our people know what these things are. So let me pretend that I don't know anything. Under the ZRI bill says the current law grants immunity only to members and committee members. Who are these? While the new provision extends this immunity to include the staff members. So my question basically is, I'm looking at who are these members and the committee members. As I said, I want to present that I don't know anything. Now you are extending that to the immunity to the staff members. That is number one. Now also the other issue I'm looking at is ZRI is an institution which has employed these members of staff, from a cleaner maybe all the way up to the Commissioner General. And maybe Commissioner General commits an omission and is taken to court in his personal capacity. Isn't it supposed to be also, I'm just thinking now, isn't it supposed to be the institution that should be sued on the actions or omissions of that members of staff? So that if I'm a member of staff and I do commit an omission which takes the institution into court, then if say one of my members sues me for that, he sues directly ZRI as an institution. Okay? Now, by doing so, I'm just thinking that by doing so, then the institution now will be looking at its staff members, isn't it, in terms of the effects. If you almost all the time Chatla is being taken, is being sued on behalf of, not me being sued, the ZRI is being sued for the omissions of this individual. Then I thought maybe by doing so, then it becomes an in-house matter, so that now then we'll take action or recourse to that member who does that. I just wanted that clarity, because the immunity which is being sought is for the member, so that the member does not get sued, isn't it? Then meaning, I thought ordinarily then the institution itself must be sued on that on behalf of that member. I don't know, maybe just clear on those. Yeah. One of members, I'm restricted to the time. I don't.
Yeah, but this
Okay.
is very important.
One member, that's what we're saying. Questions
Chair,
are-
just a write down what we are saying.
Oh, who comes then?
Me, I feel the organization which should be sued should be the ZRI, so that if a member of staff was made an omission, that would be an administrative issue.
Okay.
The organization will discipline its own member, while the person who is suing should sue the organization itself. Just the way you have put it. That's where I feel.
Thank you so much, Chair. Not really to tally. We have a situation where the former CG is in court for having had, is it authorized or whatever, because of his office, their vehicles which were sold. And after he leaves office or when he's fired, he's sued in his own capacity. Is that what they are trying to get immunity for?
Okay, can you confirm on those? If at all you have, I know we still have a lot of time to engage with the other witnesses.
Honorable Chair, ZRA will be coming to appear before the committee, but what I can confirm is that they can give the specifics to Honorable Nwenda's question, where the former CG has been sued. But he's been sued in his capacity as the former CG, and while he was CG, he had that immunity in terms of conducting business in line with the procedures and protocols. So to my understanding, if it's established that the guidelines and procedures were duly followed, then this provision that is being proposed now will take effect. But even before an officer is sued or the institution is sued, ZRA also has internal processes, which is the internal affairs unit and also investigations unit. So they do conduct their own investigations, and officers who are found erring, even if the matter has not gone to court, are penalized.
Okay. Would you comment on anything, if at all you have any, in terms of the classification of where it says only to members and the committee members? Where it says the current law grants immunity only to members and the committee members.
Chair, it's not clear, these members and committee members, but the extension now, the new extension is to the staff of ZRA.
One of the members we need to end. Okay,
that one, when they say members, they refer to board members and committee members.
So the board members of the
yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Ed and your team. We are still together. Thank you for this. I mean, it does help the members going forward as we interact with the other witnesses as they come. As I said, one of the members now is the ministry. They are here, isn't it? Okay. We're now going to the next one, where the Ministry of Finance itself is here. So I think we can call them. Thank you very much.